Hello, St. Joseph community. This is Mrs. Tellis, and I would like to share our journey back to school plan for the 2020-21 school year. Let us begin in prayer. We hold in tenderness and prayer the collective suffering of our world at this time. We grieve precious lives lost and vulnerable lives threatened. We ache for ourselves and our neighbors standing before an uncertain future. We pray, may love, not fear, go viral. Inspire our leaders to discern and choose wisely along with the common good. Help us to practice social distancing and reveal to us new and creative ways to come together in spirit and in solidarity. Call us to profound trust in your faithful presence. You, the God who does not abandon, we ask you for guidance. Amen. So there is an update from the Diocese of Orange. The Diocese of Orange has extended the date for all schools in the Diocese of Orange for the first day of school to be September 8th, 2020. That is 2 weeks after our original date of August 24th. This was a result of careful consideration and consultation with Superintendent's Council, Bishop Van, and the Associate Superintendents of the Diocese of Orange. While it is our hope that the governor's restrictions on opening schools will be lifted by that time, it is possible that we may have to pivot to distance learning. We will continue to communicate with you each week as more information becomes available. I would like to thank our school safety and security committee. I apologize. This committee was created to develop the re-entry plan of students and staff into our building and outline all safety protocols. I'd like to thank Mrs. Lopez and Mrs. Arneal from our office, Mr. Spillman from the church, Mrs. Hawley, our assistant principal as well as teacher, Mr. Costello, our school parent, Mrs. Johnson, a school parent, Mrs. Gallegos, a school parent, Mrs. Alonso Gonzalez, a school parent, Mr. Valenzuela, a school parent, and Mr. Richard Nielsen, a parish member. The COVID-19 pandemic will likely have multiple waves of infection and may last until a vaccine is developed. It is possible that this will be an ongoing part of, in addition to, the regular flu season. The purpose of today is to present to you specific guidance and expectations for students and staff at St. Joseph Catholic School from the spread of COVID-19 based on the return to campus on September 8th, 2020. This is intended as a guidance document. It's not intended to replace the guidance given by the CDC, the California Department of Health Services, and the local health authority. Remember, this information is changing rapidly and will be updated weekly if needed. St. Joseph Catholic School has purchased personal protective equipment for the campus. The PPE is used for disinfecting as well as keeping our campus safe. Our top priority is protecting our school community, staff, and students. Based on the CDC findings, the diocese does not require or recommend that our employees wear gloves except for isolation team members and those performing disinfection of common surfaces. A thorough COVID-19 cleaning will occur in all classrooms on campus daily and each evening. Disinfection measures have been put in place and are taken routinely based on frequency mentioned to disinfect classroom and workspaces, chairs, tables, etc., and protect employees and students. The facility will be clean and is actually being cleaned now, sanitized and disinfected for our reopening. The baseline of clean will be upheld with a disinfection protocol. The disinfection protocol we followed regularly, whereas the deep cleaning and disinfection protocol is triggered if an active employee or student is confirmed positive with COVID-19 by a medical doctor. An intense cleaning will therefore be carried out by an external professional service. The disinfection team is trained and equipped to use special personal protective equipment to deal with potentially harmful chemicals used in sanitation. Good personal sanitary practices, including washing hands after restroom use, are necessary and expected, as well as after recess lunch and recess time. Covering your cough, maintaining social distancing, and cleaning your workspace or other visited areas are important in keeping yourself and others clean. The disinfection team will be supplied with gloves and masks. School staff will use the signage provided to indicate if there is a room that is being sanitized or disinfected. The disinfection of the school facilities. All workspaces, such as classrooms and office, are cleaned morning, afternoon, end of the day, and evening. Appliances, refrigerators, microwaves, coffee machines, desks are cleaned daily. Electronic equipment, copier machines, shared any type of computer monitors, TV, telephones, keyboards, That is the end of each use, day, and or between use. General used objects, handles, light switches, sinks, restrooms every 30 minutes. Playground equipment, handles, railings, objects at the end of each use and the end of each day. Common areas such as chapel, library, faculty lounge, lunch benches at the end of each use and day and between groups. Efforts to prevent spread and avoid infection. We will be monitoring the number of people in the office while the risk of infection exists and begins to diminish. Certain rooms will be closed until further notice. Signage indicating closure and capacity limits will be placed on room doors. All teacher meetings are required to use Zoom as a virtual option. The teacher lounge, these spaces will be closed for use at different times throughout the year. Teachers will not be allowed to eat in the teacher lounge. A workroom. Our workroom is a limited access. Signage will indicate restrictions and will be posted at each phase is implemented. Scheduling must be implemented for teachers to go into the workroom. We will continue to teach hand hygiene and respiratory etiquette. We will teach and reinforce hand washing with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Hand sanitizer is used if soap or water is not available. We will encourage covering of coughs, sneezes, even with a mask. These are our practices. St. Joseph Catholic School will have hand sanitizer at each door, and additional washing stations with soap and water have been added to our regular campus. So the water fountain was closed and an additional washing station was put in. Students, teachers, and staff will be encouraged to sanitize and or wash hands frequently. We have purchased a 90-day supply of soap and disinfection, hand sanitizer, paper towels, tissues, gloves, protective gear, sanitizer, and a disinfectant machine sprayer. We have touchless thermometers for employees and students. We will encourage supervision of students as students engage in hand washing for at least 20 seconds, 2 times a day, in addition to washing hands after the restroom and before eating. Entry and exit. St. Joseph Catholic School planned for an entry, exit, and transition procedures that reduce large gatherings of students and adults in close proximity. Staggered start and end times, assigning students to entries to ensure even distribution of students entering, exiting at each gate. Providing guidance to students to enter one at a time and wait 6 feet apart outside the entrance, and where appropriate, parents and guardians will use the St. Joseph Catholic School drop-off and pick-up line. Social distancing. Social distancing is a simple yet very effective mechanism to prevent potential infection. In practice, this means all students and teachers will wear a mask. All students and desks will be 6 feet apart from others, staying at least 3 to 6 feet from others as a normal practice. Eliminating contact with others. Only 2 classes at a time will be allowed on the playground. Masks will be optional only during physical education exercises using social distancing. That will be determined by parent. Avoiding touching surfaces touched by others to the extent feasible. Avoiding anyone that appears to be sick or is coughing or sneezing. Social distancing in our school includes classrooms, common areas, entrance, exit areas of work location, and the office. Students will arrive by car and will enter the back gate. Parent guardians will not be able to leave their cars or enter the building as temperatures will be taken. We ask that parents make appointments, if necessary, return at a time when students or staff are in the classrooms. Staff and students will use masks upon entry. At dismissal, students will be staggered in groups by alphabetical order in stages to decrease the risk of potential crowding outside at dismissal time. Parents who wish to pick up their student before the end of the day will need to call ahead so students can be sent or accompanied to parent vehicle upon arrival. Modified layouts. Our space seating, our desks are now 6 feet apart. We will turn desks to face the same direction or have students sit only on one side of the table, spaced apart. We will provide physical guides such as marked areas on floors or sidewalks and signs on walls to ensure that our staff and children remain at least 6 feet apart in lines and other times. Lunch will be in the classroom. Classrooms will alternate to use lunch benches or grass area. There will be a staggered recess, lunch, and dismissal time that will be implemented. We will have no assemblies in the hall. We will teach and reinforce the use of cloth face coverings. Face coverings may be challenging for students, especially the younger ones, to wear all day. Face coverings are most essential in times when physical distance is difficult. Cloth face coverings are meant to protect other people in case the wearer is unknowingly infected but does not have the symptoms. We will discourage sharing of items that are difficult to clean or disinfect, for example, sharing of school supplies. We will keep each child's belongings separated from others and in individually labeled containers, cubbies, or areas. We will limit the use of supplies and equipment by one group of children at a time and clean and disinfect between use. Example, our computer lab, library books, and so forth. St. Joseph Catholic School playground will be only used by one class per day. Classes will alternate with blacktop and playground. If used more than once, cleaning and disinfecting will take place between use. All equipment will be rotated and disinfected after use. Only activities that permit social distancing will be allowed. Students must bring their own meals. There will be no hot lunch service provided for the foreseeable future. We will no longer be able to accept any lunches being dropped off or delivered to your student. If a student forgets their lunch, a macaroni and cheese will be provided by the school at a cost of $3, which will be billed in fax. We will pursue virtual group events, gatherings, or meetings if possible, and promote some social distancing at least 6 feet between people if events are held. We will limit group size to the extent possible. We will limit any non-essential visitors, volunteers, and activities involving external groups or organizations. We will pursue virtual activities and events in lieu of field trips, student assemblies, special performances, school-wide parent meetings, and special events as possible. We will continue to pursue options to convene sporting events and participation in sport activities in ways that minimize the risk of transmission of COVID-19 to players, families, coaches, and the community. Symptoms. Symptoms can include, but are not limited, fever, cough, loss of taste and or smell, and shortness of breath. In the high interest of ensuring a safe and healthy school work environment, we highly recommend that you voluntarily monitor your child's health or yourself if you are an employee by completing a daily self-assessment before coming to school or work. If you or an employee or your child has any of the above symptoms, please keep your child home. Please continue to monitor your child's health. Do not send your child to school with symptoms masked by any medication such as Tylenol or Motrin. There will be an on-site screening for employees and students to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 and reduce the potential risk of exposure to our employees, students, and visitors. Temperature and health screening protocol is in place at St. Joseph Catholic School until the diocese has determined, based on the guidance from the state and local health authorities and the applicable governmental requirements, that it is safe to discontinue. Your participation is important to help us take these measures to protect our entire community. So the on-site screening process includes screening questions for each employee done by a designated COVID-19 safety team member, temperature check of each employee done by COVID-19 safety team member, a temperature check of each student during morning drop-off in the car. The COVID-19 team is coordinated by the administration. The screening process is conducted for each employee and student upon entering campus before starting their duty or the start of the school. If any symptoms are visible, the teacher or student will not be allowed to work or attend school. Now, if there is on-site symptoms for a student or teacher, if a student or a teacher is feeling symptomatic for COVID-19, the school is contacted immediately. Teachers must telephone or use a classroom call system. The school office must use the appropriate PPE prior to providing assistance to the student or teacher. The school office will take the student to the designated isolation health room for further evaluation. The teacher will be directed to immediately leave school. From this point forward, all employees come into direct contact less than 3 feet with a symptomatic student are required to use all PPE. Once the symptomatic student arrives at the health room, student is given gloves to help protect other employees and prevent spread of any potential virus. All employees will continue to maintain 3 to 6 feet distance at all times. The school office will complete a COVID-19 case form with a symptomatic student. If the student is suspected to have these symptoms, the student's parent or guardians are called. The student is sent home and or directly to the health center and must seek and present medical clearance to return to school. Student will not be allowed back at school until they have not had a fever or other symptoms for 72 hours without receiving any fever-reducing medication such as Tylenol or Motrin. If there is a suspected positive employee, if an employee for some reason is suspected to have the symptoms, they will call the school and they will, and this will remain anonymous. If the symptoms are suspected by the school, all surfaces touched by this employee will be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected, and all students will be moved to another classroom. If an employee tests positive, that employee is to contact our school prior to returning to work to discuss the steps and documentation required to return to the school premises, and they must follow the self-quarantine and return to work protocol to ensure the safety of those around them. All school employees will be notified via email. Employees coming into direct contact less than 3 feet without mitigation with the COVID-19 positive employees must be directed to follow the self-quarantine protocol and must seek and provide medical clearance to return to work. If a student is suspected, if the student or parent suspects that their student has the symptoms, again, all school employees will be notified via email, and again, this will remain anonymous. If symptoms are suspected in the school, all surfaces will be touched by the student, will be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected, and that class will be moved to another classroom. If a student tests positive, the guardian is to contact the school principal or secretary to discuss steps and documentation that may be required prior to returning to school premises. Students must follow the self-quarantine and return to school protocol to ensure the safety of those around them. All in-school employees will be notified via email. Employees coming into direct exposure with a COVID-19 positive student will be directed to follow the self-quarantine protocol as well, and they must seek and provide medical clearance to return to work. We believe the experience at St. Joseph's Catholic School in Placentia through our distance learning program can be an alternative for some of our students. We encourage and strive to have an in-class faith-based learning experience, but recognize there might be a need either individually or as a school to distance learn, and we are prepared to meet the needs of our students and community if and when that time comes to provide a program. If an individual indeed has that need and a concern shall arise, please do not hesitate to contact us. We are here for you. Our distance learning program will use Zoom or live streaming. We are currently working to update our distance learning protocols. Parents are asked to commit to either on-campus or remote instruction no earlier than 2 weeks before the start of school year. St. Joseph Catholic School will require a student to remain in remote instruction for 1 trimester. If a parent requests to return before the end of a trimester, a remote conference will be required. However, a student who begins receiving remote instruction as a result of staying home to isolate from COVID-19 exposure should be permitted to return to campus at the end of their isolation period, as opposed to the end of the trimester. Here are our pathways for distance learning online instruction. Technology will be required. This will be a 2-way real-time virtual instruction between teachers and students. Grade levels TK through 1. Some technology and learning packets will be utilized. Instruction minutes are 180. Grade levels 2 through 8, instruction minutes are 240. Attendance will be taken. Graded policy will be consistent with those on campus. Teachers will address the same required curriculum as being presented in the classroom. I thank you for your time and support as we experience this journey together. God bless you and stay healthy. St. Joseph Catholic School is praying for you. St. Joseph, pray for us. Thank you again, and again, we will continue to update you weekly on the pandemic COVID-19.